All right, coming up next on The Closing Bell, is commercial real estate the next shoe to drop in this economy, or are fears of a crisis being overrated? Stay with us. We're back in a minute. Many investors fear the next shoe to drop in this economy could be the commercial real estate market, but are some of those fears overblown? CNBC's Diana Olick is in Washington with more. Diana.
Well, Rebecca, it's important to understand from the start that commercial and residential real estate are two very different animals, both of them in trouble, but for two very different reasons. Commercial did not see the vast overbuilding we saw in residential, so supply and demand were actually healthy before the credit crash. It's all about financing in commercial, as over $500 billion in debt comes due this year and next. That's why the Fed's announcement that it would use the TALF to buy not just new but legacy CMBS was a big shot in the arm for commercial.
The market died in October, and it is now coming back to life. And I think the markets perhaps are overreacting a little bit. I think in talking to our clients that there is still a lot of uncertainty, but I think there is hope.
Hope, but probably overreacting a bit as investors rush in to buy. Spreads just a few weeks ago were over 1,000 basis points. Now they're down to around 565. That means banks have more cash to lend. But we are not out of the woods yet for sure, with vacancies in commercial still rising. Critics say the TALF is creating a misplaced euphoria. Commercial values could still plummet 30 to 50%, and that would create a wave of defaults.
What you're really buying is a bet that these are going to pay off at the time of their maturity. And if you look at the numbers, there's virtually no way that these loans are going to pay off at maturity, and that's going to drastically affect your return.
The trouble is that so many of these loans are so far underwater due to those falling property values that when it comes time to refi, there just aren't a lot of banks that are going to do it for them. Rebecca?
All right, thanks so much, Diana. Please stay with us as we look into whether commercial real estate is really the next shoe to drop. And we're also going to bring in Harvey Green, CEO of Marcus & Millichap Real Estate Investment Services. And Harvey, thank you so much for being with us today. One thing really stood out in Diana's report, among many things, and that is that this real estate market on the commercial side could fall 30 to 50% going forward under a certain scenario. In your opinion, are the cards set up for that to occur, and what would have to occur to do so?
Well, first of all, I don't think that kind of drop in the general commercial real estate market will occur. I think we have to look at a few different components of the market to really see what's transpiring. First of all, if you bought real estate prior to 2005, you're probably in a much better position than if you bought between 2005 and 2007. And those properties are the ones I think we have to be concerned about. The other thing is a lot of people did not buy with high leverage. There is a tremendous amount of the marketplace that didn't go for the maximum amount of loan available. And true to her comment that there are properties out there that I believe are underwater. There's no question about that. There is some issue with the CMBS. I think some of the banks in their construction portfolios are going to have some issues. Generally speaking, I don't think we're going to see a 50% drop in commercial asset values.
Harvey, maybe not underwater, but Diana also brought up the point, and I want to bring you into the discussion on this one, Diana, about the financing market, and that really being the key going forward to the commercial real estate market. How much refinancing are analysts telling you can get done, and is that likely to happen?
Well, I think that a lot of refinancing could be done, especially when you talk about newer loans that are not in trouble, just as we were saying before. The problem is going to be the older loans, the ones that were done during the height of the market. And it's the same as what was happening during the boom in residential real estate. Those loans that were really highly leveraged, those are going to be the ones in trouble. But with this money coming in from the government, from the TALF, they are looking to infuse money into the new CMBS, but also into the legacy, and that'll come in July, and that's going to help a bit. But I do think, at least from what the analysts are telling me, that there are a lot of properties out there, especially in some of the bigger markets like in New York City, where property values are really dropping pretty far. And we've seen that in a lot of recent sales in New York and in Boston.
Harvey, you say some of the smaller banks could actually benefit from the things that are taking place in commercial real estate. A lot of folks out there have said the opposite. Explain why you see that.
Well, one of the reasons is that they are relationship driven, and in many instances they were putting these loans on their own books, and so they were very careful in their due diligence and in their underwriting, not only of the sponsor of what particular product they were doing, but also in the underwriting of the asset. And I think again, the construction industry set aside and construction loans set aside, I think in that regard the regional and smaller banks are going to find themselves in a pretty good position. It was those that went into the secondary market where there was a lot of, if you will, drive to originate loans, but I don't know how much there was in the due diligence process. I think that's where the issue is.
Between the different categories, Harvey, of real estate on the commercial side, apartments, retail, what's best set right now and what, in your opinion, is worst set?
Well, you know, the economy has been losing jobs, and obviously that's rippling through the entire economy, and it's affecting commercial real estate in the office assets. There is no question that in that class of property on a national basis, their vacancy has been rising, occupancies and rents are moving in the other direction, and retail. Retail has been hit pretty hard in terms of the consumer not spending and what's been happening to the inline tenants, as well as some of the major tenants in retail. So I think there's stress in that market as well. The apartment market is the market that I would say.
I was going to ask about apartments, because apartments, we're being told that because so many apartments that went into condos that now went back into apartments are being just glutted on the market, and we're not seeing that new household formation that we should be seeing right now. Do you see that in the apartment sector as well?
In some of the markets, I think yes, in markets like Florida, that is occurring. But on a national basis, pretty much the condos that are now, let's call it the shadow market in terms of rent, does have an effect on the market. There's no question about that. But the doubling up, the unfortunate loss of jobs are putting more than one renter together in an apartment. And so of all of the classes right now, the apartment market is the strongest and seems to be holding up, although it does have some vacancy in it, and there are certain markets that are contrarian. But on an overall basis of all the classes, apartment's the one that I think is the strongest right now.
Harvey and Diana, thanks both of you so much for being with us today.
My
all right,
pleasure.
coming up next on the closing bell, is it time for investors to turn their attention to the once red-hot Latin America?